light within my heart, light within my thoughts, light within my words. May one and all and everything, blessed and loved, ever be. Welcome. I am Sister Who. A friend asked the other day, and we tried to start brainstorming about it and deconstructing the idea into all of its pieces. What would be the implications of total enlightenment? Because there are a lot of Eastern religions that speak of enlightenment as the primary goal. And I kind of thought, well, first of all, how would you ever know if you got there? Because it would be basically, to say total enlightenment is to presume that there's nothing more to learn, nothing more to know. And I guess in that sense, it would be kind of putting an end on life instead of allowing it to continue, because there'd be nothing more to learn and no more ways to grow. But the other thing to me, I guess, is that it puts a damper on relationships, because that means that the person who considers himself or herself totally enlightened has nothing to learn from others, no need of others, and in that sense it devalues others in that person's life. There have been people I've met who were wonderfully narcissistic to the point that they insisted that there was nothing that they needed from me, there was nothing I could give them, there was no way that I could make a contribution to their lives, and I just kind of had to shrug and say, well, then why am I here? And in some cases, I think it was because they wanted to make me more like them, and I kind of rolled my eyes and laughed and said, that's not going to happen. I am too much of an individual, always have been, always will be, and I was not put on earth to be a clone, to become a clone of somebody else. There are unique perceptions and understandings and creativity that I feel in my heart a need to do that no one has ever done, and maybe that no one will ever do them again, but it's the job I was given to do during this time on earth, in my opinion. That's my job to do. My job is not to become like somebody else. My job is to be myself and live as myself in the ways that only I can. But there was another person recently that I spoke with who, instead of the word enlightenment, he used the term peace of mind. And even there, something about it didn't feel right to me. And the more he described having peace of mind in all situations and everything, the more I was quite certain I didn't want it. And I tried to convey this to another friend who I respect very highly, who talked about remaining calm in all circumstances. And I kind of thought, well, to some degree, but only if you have a deeper understanding behind it. I would not want to remain calm when, well, it's not that I don't want to remain calm, it's that I don't want to remain detached, might be a better word. I don't want to remain emotionally detached when there's something going on right in front of me that warrants a passionate response. If it's never happened, I don't expect it to happen, but if I were walking down the street and heard a woman screaming from an alley and there was a man raping her, I would not remain calm and I would not remain detached. I would step in and do whatever I could to put an end to it and to interfere with that crime being committed. And in a similar sort of way, if someone's house was on fire and there was someone inside screaming for help, firemen or not, I am not going to remain detached. I'm going to do what I can to intelligently and wisely and safely and quickly get that person out of the house. Is there any water source around? Maybe I want the fireman to spray me with water so that I'm at least drenched and soaking wet as I jump through the flames, grab the person, and jump out again. Something. There's got to be something I could do. And even if I didn't make it back out, I still would want to know that I had done all that I could. That if I was going to die risking my life for someone else, it would be what I believed. It wouldn't be regarding my own safety first and the expression of my character second. if what I believe is that everyone matters and that every life is important and that this person matters, and I decide I'm going to do everything I can to save that person, yes, I would go into a burning building and pull them out, or I would push a person from in front of a speeding car, even if it meant getting hit myself. I think having unconditional love for others means being willing to take a bullet for them, as the expression goes. That if somebody were to point a gun at somebody and say, I'm going to fire the trigger, I would step in between and said, not on my watch, you're not. You know, and my demonstration may be enough to keep them from doing it, may not be, I don't know. But I know that I would have a harder time living with myself if I stood by and did nothing. You know, the expression has often been said, all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good to do nothing. If I consider myself good, I will not be the one who does nothing in those sorts of situations. All that being said, there's far more heroic situations that happen on primetime television in the evening than ever happened in my actual life. But having decided this ahead of time, I don't think I would be the one to stand there and do nothing. And there have been a lot of situations in the past where I didn't do nothing, I did something, and in some cases I got punished for it. There was one time where, well, a particular town that I used to live in, I was fixing up a house bit by bit and doing it in an unconventional way because that was the only way to get the job done. There was a person who found out about that and reported me in a way that led to me having to leave that house and leave the town because they didn't want someone as creative and eccentric as me around. The only reason that that person found me or found out about me in the first place was because I was across the street changing the tire for someone who had just gotten out of the hospital for surgery on a leg, and she couldn't get back and forth to her doctor's appointments, but she had an automatic car so that she could use her other foot and drive to and from her doctor's appointments, but she couldn't drive there because her car had a flat tire. So I volunteered to change her flat tire, and by doing so, found myself threatened by someone who didn't like her. And when he discovered that he couldn't intimidate me out of the picture, I was going to change her tires so that she could get to her doctor's appointments. Then he tried to make trouble for me other ways, and he succeeded in driving me from the town. And there have been times where I thought, you know, if I didn't change her tire, if I wasn't there changing her tire, none of that would have happened and I'd still have my house. Because that mentally unstable person who threatened me would never have noticed me or made trouble for me or anything else. And yet, I don't think I could be who I am if I had not been willing to help her change a tire. That's who I am. And if I had avoided that because of him, basically I would have been giving up who I was for the sake of his threats and his hostility. And in that sense, I have to wonder if I would ever be truly free again, because I had given my freedom to him to say that I will not help people if you don't approve of me helping people. Well, whether he approved or not, I was going to help this woman who needed my help. And so I did, but I wound up paying a very high price for it. But I don't, for that reason, regret doing it. And you know, there have been a lot of situations in my life where I have helped people who were not popular, who were not the ones that anyone else wanted to help. There was a woman who was on disability with I don't know if he was autistic or not, but he had some sort of mental disability, and didn't have any gainful employment or whatever, and definitely needed some kind of supportive situation. She was being evicted from her home, and there was no one who would help her. And I gave up 3 or 4 whole days of my life to help them reclaim whatever they could before everything else they owned was thrown in the local garbage bin and they lost their home. And I tried to put them in touch with social service agencies that would help them. The only way I found out about them was from another person I knew who was a builder, who he told me about them but he was not willing to involve himself. He knew that I would help them, but he didn't want to. And I always found that very odd. But I did what I did because of who I was, not because anyone was paying me for it. And it's these sorts of situations that I've been in throughout my life where somebody needs help and I say, I'll come help. It's not about the money, it's about the people. It's about valuing them, and that to me is what it comes back to, this point of what is true enlightenment. If enlightenment doesn't bring you closer to a practice of unconditional love, I don't think it's really enlightenment. I think it's self-delusion. And I don't want peace of mind if peace of mind is going to keep me from standing up and being outraged when someone is experiencing an injustice. I don't want peace of mind if it means that I won't do everything I can to help the person who's in need. I don't want peace of mind if it means that, don't associate with that person because they have so much trouble following them all the time, and you don't want any of that getting into your life, so we'll just isolate that person over there and live our happy little lives and let them totally go down the tubes and experience whatever trouble they do. There is such a thing as people making poor choices, and I understand that, but I don't think that other people's poor choices justifies me being apathetic. And I have to ask myself, if I were in that position, what kind of help would I want? It's a basic golden rule of give unto others as you would have them give unto you. Which is a Christian biblical verse, but there is some equivalent of the golden rule in virtually every belief system I've ever encountered. That there's this imperative to extend to others the kindness and the love that you would want for yourself if you were in that situation. And perhaps they'll treat it wisely, and perhaps they'll make another wrong choice. Even if they're making wrong choices, anything that to me respectably resembles total enlightenment needs to be that which looks at them and says, what would you want available if you were in that situation? What kind of supports would you want available if you were the one that had a stroke, that had a heart attack, that trusted the wrong person, and you lost so much and it was devastating, but you still need a place to call home. You still need a second chance. You still need some way to build your life back. What are the supports and the understanding and the help that you would want for yourself? And then to be sure that you give that to the other person. Or to make sure that somehow they get their needs met. If it's, maybe there was a time in my teenage years where somebody needed help, didn't have it, I couldn't provide it. What they needed was a mechanic. I happen to know somebody in the church that I was attending at the time that was a very effective mechanic, and I just asked them, do you have the ability and would you mind? And he said, no, not at all, and he stepped forward, and it actually became a moment of community building between members of the congregation, so that there was no money exchanged, but it made all the relationships between the individuals stronger, and there was more understanding, more love, and more commitment. The implications of total enlightenment, on one hand, is supposed to be this accomplishment of, you don't have to struggle with all the questions anymore because now you have all the answers. The problem with having all the answers is that everything ends. It stops right there and it doesn't go any further. It's the questions that give you somewhere else to go. Even if the last question you have is, what else is there? What could follow this? What's next? What if we did all of this with a little bit of difference? What if all of this happened to someone else? Would they respond the same way? And if not, why not? And if they didn't, is that good or is that bad, and in what ways? They might have a different answer for different reasons because the context is a little different. And in that, they might present a new way of doing things that becomes helpful to you later on. I remember a particular episode of Star Trek where, the implications of total enlightenment, they encountered a species that lived inside a glass bubble. Everything was sealed, everything was genetically perfect, and And yet the odd thing was, when a problem did occur, the only way they could solve it was by using the technology that was incorporated into the visor of a visually impaired member of the crew. If they hadn't had that technology available, they wouldn't have been able to answer their dilemma. And so it was a contribution from someone with a disability that made it possible for the non-disabled to resolve the challenge and deal with their lives and be a stronger community. All that being said, I guess, enlightenment ideally is not about having all the answers, as it is about knowing how to ask questions so that you move toward empowerment and toward growth and toward greater intelligence than anything you've encountered so far. Enlightenment is not a plateau where, ideally speaking, enlightenment is not a plateau where you stop. Enlightenment is a new hallway through which you access things beyond your current experience and beyond your current levels of understanding. It is not a destination so much as it is a point along the journey, but then can we really speak of total enlightenment if it is a transitional point and not a destination or an ending? It kind of throws things into a bit of a conundrum if we say that, in truth, when you deconstruct it completely, total enlightenment may be indistinguishable from death, from a complete termination of all life activity, because there's nothing more to do, nothing more to learn, nothing more to grow. Or conversely, it becomes reaching a point of total service, where having total enlightenment, you then spend the rest of your existence using that total enlightenment to empower the lives of others. And a lot of times that will mean not telling them the answer so much as helping them find their answers, helping them find ways to develop. Because of your total enlightenment, you can tell them how to grow and the imperative of growing. And in doing the sort of service, there's a sense in which you are completely yourself in a more holistic sense than you've ever been. And there's also a sense in which it's not about you, but if you're still in a physical body at that point, you would need to continue those things that maintain the physical body, that make the service of enlightening others and encouraging and supporting others an enduring reality, and something that remains possible. And in doing that, what you would, whether you realize it or not, what you're actually doing is demonstrating relational individuality and the interconnectedness and interdependence of all life. And as you replicate that in somebody, as you demonstrate it for somebody else, perhaps they can learn it also, so that in the final analysis, it becomes ripples extending out through the pond as this network gets bigger and bigger and bigger of individuals practicing relational individuality, supporting each other, caring for each other, providing for each other, and being there whenever an injury or a need or a wound or some sort of brokenness happens, so that brokenness can be immediately stopped by that unconditional love and total enlightenment, and not proceed to infect the rest of the population. I've said a lot of different things in the last half hour, and I hope that they've been helpful to you. I try to trust when I do these shows that I'm following intuition correctly and saying what needs to be said to be helpful to people. Because very often, the stuff that just flows through my head faster than I can think turns out in the responses I get from viewers to be exactly what they needed to hear. And so I try not to be too self-censoring, but to allow it to just come out and trust that things will be said that I couldn't have planned on, that I couldn't have planned to have happen. Thank you very much for watching. I guess the final point would be, it's not so much enlightenment that we need to be pursuing as unconditionally loving relationships with each other. And now may you be blessed with love and peace in the pursuit of your own dreams and in all your dealings with the diversity of humanity around you. Amen. I walk alone, and you are always with me. I struggle hard, and your peace fills my heart. I do my best, but to limits must surrender. And then it is you play a triumph song. I am surrounded by holy mystery. I live in awe of who you are. Your whispers and your gentle touch, your wisdom and your guiding love, everywhere and always are enough for me. Countless names which have marched through time before me, their trail I see, and my own is thus made known. A million unseen hands and silent voices singing. I'm not alone if I but have the eyes to see. I am surrounded by holy mysteries. I live in awe of who you are. Your whispers and your gentle touch, your wisdom and your guiding love, everywhere and always are enough for me. Your spirit flows through all I see around me. Your wisdom shines in the riddles of my days. Your loving hand directs my nighttime visions. Your beating heart sets the rhythm of my song. I am surrounded by holy mystery. I live in awe of who you are. Your whispers and your gentle touch, your wisdom and your guiding love, everywhere and always are enough for me. When skies of blue by dark clouds are covered, when falling rain keeps sunbeams from the ground, when a heavy heart prevents my feet from dancing, your spirit's wings can even then be found. I am surrounded by holy mystery. I live in awe of who you are. Your whispers and your gentle touch, your wisdom and your guiding love, everywhere and always enough for me. Whether blinding snow or deep of night assails me, in reverent silence or resounding song, in patient stillness or in jubilation, hand in hand we smile and journey on. I am surrounded by holy mystery. I live in awe of who you are. Your whispers and your gentle touch, your wisdom and your guiding love, everywhere and always are enough for me. Everywhere and always you are enough for me.